All right, here we are. Well, about a week after Hurricane Beryl came through, we were out power for about 6 days. So we ran the ever living snot out of this little generator. And so the plan is now to, well, I wouldn't say winterize it, but just, maintain it so the next time we need something like this for that many days, or just even an hour, that we have something that we can rely on and start. So there's a few things I've learned about generators. Even if you do your best to maintain things, there will be some trouble with them, even if they sit for some years, right? So, or even months without being used. So all right, number one thing, drain all the fuel out. As soon as you're done with it, drain all the fuel out, because even if the fuel sits in this thing for more than probably a month, it will absorb a lot of moisture and it will rust the tank from the inside out. So at this point, the best thing you can do is drain every bit of fuel out of it that you can get. A couple other things to do is, because this is old, and even if you drain everything out of this thing, it will flash rust over time because there's no coating in these tanks, right? So once we drain the fuel out, we're going to pull this fuel petcock off. There's a little in-tank filter. We're going to pull that out, clean that guy out. We're going to drop this. There's a little screen filter in here, because all that sediment and rust, even if you do try and maintain it, will end up down here or in this filter here. I had this completely plug up just while I was maintaining it between days of runtime, and it had a lot of sediment in there, so we cleaned all that out too. So pull this petcock off, pull this little guy, clean that little filter bowl out. I probably won't change the filter, even though it's got some trash in it. Most likely, I keep a stock of a few of these guys. Get some good ones. These are kind of cheap, but because if they sit out here in the elements, or even tarped over, they tend not to last too terribly long. So just have a spare one that can go on here when you do need to use it if this thing goes south. The last thing we're going to do is, well, maybe not the last thing, but we're going to pull the float bowl drain on it, get this guy dry. But not only that, we're going to pull the fuel hose and leave this old bowl out, flush it out with some carb cleaner or some brake clean, and then flush it out again with some penetrating lubricant. Hopefully what that will do is keep any varnish out of it and keep any sediment out of it, and also lubricate it for a little while, so it doesn't corrode internally to this bowl. Because even if you drain this thing out, moisture will collect with changing weather, especially here in the Houston area where you got an absolute ton of humidity. Now, the other things that we're going to do to this particular generator, because it's got some hours on it, it's in relatively good condition, but I am going to check the valve lash on it. But that's not really, that's just periodic maintenance. That's not, winterization or whatever you want to call it. So we'll start with that. The other thing is, pulled this filter out, the screen, dumped it out, cleaned it out, because it's well, you just never know what gets into the bottom of your gas cans, and you find it after you've ran about probably 100 gallons in this thing. This is a 6-gallon tank, and I filled it at least twice a day for about 6 days, so gives you an idea how much consumption we have. But anyway, so we'll let this drain, and then we'll kind of run through a few bits of the other side of maintenance. Now, other things worth mentioning, and I did make a Facebook post about this. Get yourself a transfer for your panel. So there's a mechanical interlock. This is to make it code. This is the generator breaker, and this is the main breaker. So that allows you to backfeed your panel, and that's basically to NEC code without backfeeding the grid. A lot of bad things happen if you do that wrong. You could kill a lineman. That's the most important thing. You're charging a line set, you're backfeeding the entire grid, which probably would not play well with your generator anyway. But you kill a lineman on a dead line set if he's thinking the line fuse is pulled and it's dead and he's going to do work to it when you're backfeeding it. Also, too, if line power does come back on, at best, it's going to trip this breaker. At worst, you're going to blow something up. But yeah. So any case, all right, we'll get back to generator maintenance here shortly. All right. So I pulled the petcock off, fuel valve, and this is the in-tank strainer. Let's see. You can see there's some crud in it. It's not bad. Also, too, on the bottom of the petcock, I pulled this off, and you can see there's a little bit of junk in the screen. Not too bad. Now, when I had changed this fuel filter, this guy before, and I don't know if you can see it, there's a little bit of gunk in between the pleats there. I'm not going to change it now, because Lord knows how long it's going to sit on here. I will change it when I need to run it next time if it becomes an issue. So basically all I'm gonna do is, let's see here, spray this with some brake clean, and I'm gonna back flush this a little bit, get all the stuff in the screen out, and then put it back together in the tank. And it goes up here. Let's see if you can see it. Yeah, right there. Fuel is dripping out, and you can see probably even some of the gasoline fumes coming out. So we're gonna let that dry, and then probably get some WD-40 in the tank or some sort of lubricant just to keep it from rusting. All right, and there's the float bowl drain right there. We're gonna go ahead and pull that. Sorry for my poor photography skills here. It's not my talent. So let that drain out completely. I mean, a smarter person would probably drain this into a bowl or something, but all right. So get our can of brake clean here. Now, what I'm gonna do is, here's the fuel line right here that goes down to the carb. Run some brake clean down in there sorry, I'm really bad at this. Some forethought would have been great. So I'm gonna put some brake clean down here until it kind of runs out that bowl. That'll clean out the needle seat, hopefully. And then we'll put some WD-40 down there, some sort of penetrating lubricant, just to lubricate everything, displace any water that's in there, and then close it up. I'll get back. Oh, one other word of the wise that I think is important here. Okay, so you should probably always have a few bucks worth of critical spare parts for these things. New petcock with in-tank filter, some fuel line, fuel filters, and a carburetor. You can pick up all of this for probably less than 50 bucks. My experience is when these things are just sitting, doing nothing for a majority of the time that you own them. The lines will go bad, the filter will go bad, the carburetor can go bad even though we drained it all out. If it sits there long enough condensate builds up in it, it's a goner. Probably even if, since we lubricated it a little bit to try and maybe displace any of that water that might have been in there, and to keep it in somewhat, you know, half-ass good shape, things can go wrong, right? What you don't want to do is find out about 50% of the time it won't run, you know, and I got to take something apart. Like, that's even if I winterize the thing or you know, do my best to properly store it. Seems to be something's always going wrong with it, and then I got to pick it apart in the dark or, you know, whatever. This will help extend that life where it can sit there and not go bad. But if it sits there for years, you just never know. So buy some spare parts. That's 99.9% of the time. The things that goes wrong with these generators are strictly fuel system stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of other things that go wrong, but that seems to be the most common on any small engine, is fuel system. So don't cheap out, go get some parts. You'll thank me later. Also too, most of these generators can be taken apart with a 10mm, an 8mm, and a crescent wrench, you know, like a 6-inch crescent wrench, something like that. So you don't really need a lot of tools. If you're getting into rebuilding carbs, it's a whole different bag. I mean, you'll need some carb wires, some carb brushes, you know, plenty of brake clean, you know, that kind of stuff. But for now, we're just talking about maintenance. So, all right, good luck. All right, well, there she is, buttoned back up. Tank's lubricated. All you can do is the best you can, you know. There's probably more effective ways to do it, maybe. I don't know. Can always discuss that. All the fuel lines are put back in place again. This is the original filter. All the lanes are the lines are dry. The filters are clean. The in tank and the screen here. Of course, we already know about that guy. The only word of the wise: route the fuel lines back where they were originally, because you're going to have it apart. What you don't want to do is get it wrapped around this governor lever, because if it impedes the movement of this, your generator may have a hard time keeping RPM and thus line frequency. That's no good for anybody. That being said, I guess turn fuel petcocks off. I don't really know why, but yeah, there she is, ready to rock and roll the next time. All right, fellas, hopefully help somebody out in the world. Have a good one.